to the Who Dat Nation, and welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. And we are at week 4 of the new NFL season, and the New Orleans Saints will play host to their hated division rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this Sunday, October the 1st, 12 noon, in the NFC South Showdown. How is everybody doing out there? Have we recovered from last week's debacle in Lambeau when the Saints lost to the Green Bay Packers by the score of 18-17? You know, before we get into our preview of this upcoming matchup with the Bucs, I got to get something off my chest that I've been holding on to for the better part of 4 to 5 days here. I've come to the realization that the New Orleans Saints right now aren't a good team. Now, I know that we're 2-1. We only lost one game, and that was last week. It's not the sky is falling, you know what I'm saying? I get all that. You know, keep up hope. Keep up hope. Yeah, I'm all for that. But you look over the course of the last 2 years with this team, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And now it's coming clearer. And see, here's the problem I'm having. Dennis Allen is probably one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the NFL. He knows the defense. He can put a defense together. He is excellent. The proof, look at our defense. For the past couple of years, it's been top 10. You know, even when we were 7-10 or whatever we were last year and all this other stuff, we still had a decent defense. But as a head coach, I'm just not feeling it. And what did it was his press conference on Monday, and I'm listening to this dude, and I'm like, man, you are truly delusional. Truly. Unless you're Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder, you can clearly see, even those two gentlemen can see the most glaring issue in this organization: the offensive line. That offensive line has to be one of, if not the worst offensive line in football. It is completely in shambles. And what makes it so bad, you know, they just signed these guys to extensions, should I say. Cesar Ruiz, he just got an extension. Now, he got hurt, but prior to him getting hurt, he wasn't producing. You know, you drafted Trevor Penning, and he's coming along, but he's coming along very slow. Very slow. And, you know, your best offensive lineman, Ryan Ramczyk, I don't think he's healthy. I really don't, because he's just being bullied off of that line. Straight bullied. And none of it is working. None of it is working on that line. And it's not being addressed. And when he's asked this at a press conference, he being Dennis Allen, he's like, oh, you know, we got to clean up something. Clean up? What can you clean up on that line other than getting rid of everybody? Now, I know that's far-fetched. You can't just cut everybody and just bring in new people and expect it to click. I'm not crazy, but my God, you got to bring in somebody. Bring in some competition. You know, sign some people. Now, just the other day, they signed our offensive tackle, Mark Evans, to the practice squad. I don't know nothing about Mark Evans. I don't care. That's fine. Whatever. But, my God, man, there's old boy who was with Dallas, who went to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati cut him. He's still out there. Collins, he's still out there. Now, I'm not saying he he can make a big difference, but he can do something. I mean, at this point, what's the worst that can happen? How can you bring who can who can play any worse than what this offensive line has been playing? Uh, Show me. It is ridiculous how this offensive line looks, and it's ridiculous that we have a coach who sits there like, oh, it's no big deal. We'll fix it. How fix it? You hadn't fixed it in 2 years. Let's put this in perspective. But for the past not 3 years, I know 2 years for certain, that offensive line has gotten Jameis Winston hurt. It has gotten Derek Carr hurt. And if you want to go back even further, that same offensive line got Drew Brees hurt. And so they're killing your quarterbacks. They are killing your quarterbacks. The Saints on earlier this week, they signed Jake Luton, who was on the team at one point, I think last season, whatever. But they signed him off the practice squad for the Carolina Panthers, I believe. And so they brought him in. All right, whatever. But, I mean, you're going to be signing quarterbacks for the rest of the season with this offensive line. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. The other thing that just, burnt me up was when he was asked about Derek Carr. We all know Derek Carr got hurt last week in Green Bay. He sprained his AC joint in his shoulder, throwing shoulder, mind you. And that takes time. It takes time to heal. He gets up there. Oh, we're going to take it week to week. We're not ruling him out. What? What you mean? Because you know what I heard when he said that? Think back to last season when Jameis Winston got hurt. And for about 2 to 3 weeks after he got hurt, Jameis Winston kept going out there. Obviously, you could see the dude was hurt, but you kept willing him out there. Oh, he's all right, it's more of a pain tolerance thing and blah, blah, blah. And we fast forward to this press conference, and he's saying it's like he has flashcards, and he's reading from last year's flashcards concerning Jameis Winston. He said the same thing about Derek Carr. Oh, it's a week-to-week thing. It's just a pain tolerance thing. It can't really hurt it no more than what is already. Man, what are you talking about? This is his throwing shoulder. I'm so baffled by this. I'm so baffled by this. And I don't think he's the guy. And honestly, I like Dennis Allen. I really do. I know last year I went on my tirades. I was ready to show him the door, and all that was real. I don't apologize for what I was saying. I felt that at the time, and I meant it at the time. And honestly, I still feel that way in sorts. But I know if you fire Dennis Allen, that defense is going to take a step back because he is a good defensive coach. Not all coordinators can be a head coach. It's a fact. Go through history, people. Just look at the 85 Bears. Everybody talks about Mike Dicker and had that team rolling the way it was. But behind the scenes, it was actually Buddy Ryan's defense. That defense was one of the greatest defenses in history. And he left Chicago and went and became the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I followed the Philadelphia Eagles closely because I was a huge fan of Randall Cunningham. And so I always followed the Eagles and Buddy Ryan. And Buddy Ryan was not a good head coach, but he was one of the greatest defensive-minded coaches ever. He even spawned off 2 great defensive-minded coaches with Rex Ryan and what was the other Ryan name? We had him. I can't even remember his name, but he was a Ryan and great defensive minds. But Rex Ryan went on to be a head coach and couldn't do anything. He couldn't win it. Well, he did get to an AFC championship with the Jets. I give him that. Or am I getting them mixed up? It's Rex and why am I blanking on his name? I'm pretty sure y'all all know who I'm talking about. But in any event, they weren't good head coaches. Uh, Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips is an amazing defensive coordinator. Well, was an amazing defensive coordinator. As a head coach, not so much. Not so much. Swinging over to the offense. Think about the Dallas Cowboys, even though I know you don't want to because I don't either. But the Dallas Cowboys from the 90s, you know, you had Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and playmaker Michael Irvin, and all those players. That was North Turner. You know, he was the offensive coordinator, had them playing lights out. He became a head coach. Not a good head coach. You know, it's just not everybody is meant to be a head coach. And I said all that to say, I don't think Dennis Allen is meant to be a head coach. Love him to death. But I don't think this is it because he cannot fix this team and he's not making the proper steps to fix this team. You know, and I know coaches, they don't like to, you know, give you a peek behind the curtain when it comes to the press conferences. They talking coach speak and all this here. So they don't let you know what they're thinking. I respect that. I get that. But your actions speak louder than words. You are not addressing the needs. And at this point, is not only Dennis Allen, I feel, needs an evaluation. We got to start looking at Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis is the general manager of this team. What are you doing? What are you doing to help this team? You are the one who's giving these contract extensions, paying these guys. And they haven't proved nothing yet. They haven't proven that they are worthy of these contracts. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't pay these guys. These guys are putting their bodies on the line every week, and they deserve their money. But before you back up the Wells Fargo truck to their house, let's see what they can give us, because maybe you overpaying for these cats, and it feels like you are overpaying for these guys. I'm just I don't know. I'm just scared for the future of this team. I'm scared to death because I drunk the Kool-Aid, as I always do. I got suckered in. I'm a Saints fan. I thought this year was going to be different. I thought this year we had turned the corner, but I'm seeing the same thing happening, and it's frustrating. And, you know, it is very frustrating because the window for us to make a playoff run, to even make the playoffs, is quickly closing. This year is the year to do something. And as it stands right now, yeah, we're 2-1. Good. But we have 15 more games to go. And out of these 15 games, me looking over the last 3 weeks where we barely win, where the offense is sputtering, you know, defense is holding us down. And how long can we expect our defense to hold us down like this, you know, before they get tired? They got tired last week in the Green Bay game. They got tired. That's what happened in the fourth quarter. It was nothing Green Bay was doing that just threw our defense off. They were tired. They were on the field most of the second half because we couldn't play ball control offense. You look at the game on Thursday night when Green Bay played the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions ran the ball down their throats. And I'm sitting there watching this game like, why we couldn't do that? Why we couldn't do that? They didn't break off 20-yard runs every time they handed the ball off. It was sporadic. But they kept with it. And guess what? They won. And they really, that score didn't reflect the behind kicking that the Detroit Lions gave those people. But we sat there and allowed these people to come back from 17 down in the fourth quarter. I'm amazed, but I don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't know what to do, what to say, or how to feel. I'm kind of like numb right now, and I don't like that feeling because I was excited 3 weeks ago, and now I'm like, it's hard for me to get up for these games. But I will say this though, I'm kind of pushed back on that. I am excited for this one, and the reason I'm excited for this one is for the grudge match. We have a fight this weekend. For all you boxing fans, there's a big fight Saturday night. There's Carnelo and Charlo. Real good. I'm excited for that fight. But that's not the fight I'm talking about. The fight is going to be Mike Evans and Marshall Lattimore. I'm looking forward to seeing this. I don't know what's the problem with these two guys. They obviously do not like each other at all. And it shows every time they match up. It's amazing. But let's get into the preview of this game. The New Orleans Saints, who are 2-1 right now, host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are also 2-1 this Sunday in the Caesars Superdome after a 2-game road trip. The Saints are tied with Tampa Bay and Atlanta for first place in the NFC South and are looking to rebound after last week's, what do we call that, a roll bump? Yeah, a little roll bump where we lost 18-17 to the Green Bay Packers. Starting quarterback Derek Carr was forced to leave Sunday's game with a shoulder injury. A week of practice and rehab will play a role in the evaluation of whether Carr or Jameis Winston received the start against the Buccaneers. Whoever is behind center will have the opportunity to work with a prolific ride-out trio, which consists of Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed, a group that combines with consistency and the ability to make big plays. I want to drop a little note on y'all. For 3 weeks into this season, the New Orleans Saints receiving core is the only receiving core in the entire NFL that has not dropped one pass. They haven't dropped. They have 0 drops. It blew my mind. I had to fact check that about 4 times to make sure that wasn't just somebody throwing numbers out there. That is actual fact. They haven't dropped the ball. Pretty amazing thus far in this season. But the big news for Sunday's game, running back Alvin Kamara will make his 2023 debut against the Buccaneers after serving a 3-game suspension that was levied by the NFL. After 3 seasons with Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers turn to a new signal caller this offseason, signing free agent Baker Mayfield. Despite this and other personnel and coaching staff changes, they have started off fast at a 2-1 record, with those 2 wins coming against the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, you can look at that and say that both of those teams aren't good, especially the Bears. The Bears are a big disappointment so far this season. They look horrible. Minnesota, Vikings do not look good. They also are struggling as well, but they won. The Tampa Bay won the game. On the defensive side of the ball, they are still a stingy unit of recent years, led by defensive-minded head coach Todd Bowles. Their linebacking core of Devin White, Levante David, and Shaquille Barrett have each been selected to at least one All-Pro team. Meetings between the Saints and Buccaneers have been ultra-competitive battles in recent years. Both defenses have been the story of the last 3 meetings between these two clubs, with the winning team average score of just 15 points. And New Orleans shut out Tampa Bay 2 years ago by the score of 9-0. Fans can expect a physical game on Sunday between elite defenses with special teams unit playing a major role. Around the NFC South this week, along with the Saints and the Buccaneers coming head to head with one another, the Atlanta Falcons will play the Jacksonville Jaguars in London on Sunday morning, and the Carolina Panthers will play the Minnesota Vikings. Both teams are 0-3. Somebody's O has got to go. Or maybe not. They might end in a tie. Who knows? A little history of the Saints and Bucks head-to-head matchups. The Saints have posted a 39-23 regular season record against Tampa Bay. It is the New Orleans Saints' best winning percentage versus an opponent. In 63 games of this series, there has been 2,124 points scored by New Orleans, and the Saints are only allowed 1,151 yards, or points, should I say. A 7-game regular season New Orleans Saints winning streak from 2011 to 2014 and from 2018 to 2021. In the Superdome, when the Saints host this matchup, the Saints are 18-10 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There have been 25 games decided by double digits, 7 games decided by 21 or more points, 34 games decided by 7 points or less. A 41-point win by the New Orleans Saints on December 16th, 2012, the club's first shutout against the Bucs. Since both teams joined the NFC South in 2002, New Orleans has swept the regular season series 8 times. Going back to the last time these two teams met, that was on December 5th of 2022. It was in Tampa Bay. The Saints lost that game 17-16 when Tampa Bay came back from a 13-point deficit. I think that was a Monday night game, and while the Saints led 16-3 with 5 minutes and 21 seconds left in the game. Don't that sound a tad bit familiar? Don't that sound like something that just happened a week ago? I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. But in that game, then Saints quarterback Andy Dalton, he threw for 229 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara was held to 26 yards rushing on 12 carries. Chris Olave had 4 catches for 65 yards, and Rashid Shaheed had 3 catches for 75 yards. The Saints were penalized 6 times for 84 yards and were just 5 for 14 on third down. Man, that sounds familiar. I don't know. It must be just me. Let's go over our injury report for this game, starting with the New Orleans Saints. Quarterback Derek Carr, shoulder. He is questionable for this Sunday's game. I just don't get it. Tight end Foster Moreau, he is questionable for Sunday's game. Paulson Adebo, he has been ruled out for Sunday's game, as well as Jordan Howden and Caesar Voorhees, our center, with a concussion. Those 3 players are out for Sunday's game. Moving over to Tampa Bay on their injury report, out for them is defensive tackle Kaljah Kinsey. Pretty sure I've said his name wrong. He's out. Shavonta Dennis, linebacker, has been ruled out. Jamal Dean, cornerback, has been ruled out. Derek Pitts, cornerback, has been ruled out. Carlton Davis III, cornerback, he is questionable for Sunday's game. They are hampered on the wrong side of the ball. you know, half of their defense is out for this game. Of course, that's nothing to get excited about. It was like that last week. So let's not get excited. Plus, we shouldn't celebrate nobody's injuries anyway. Let's go over season stats thus far in the first 3 weeks of the season. Passing the ball, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers leading passer is, of course, Baker Mayfield. He is 62 of 93, 636 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. The Saints leading passer is, of course, Derek Carr. He is 57 of 87, 636 yards. They have the exact same passing yardage. Whereas Derek Carr has 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. The leading rushers on these two teams for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it is running back Rashid White. He has 48 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. The Saints leading rusher is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill has 16 carries for 91 yards. The leading receivers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it is Mike Evans, 17 catches for 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. For the New Orleans Saints, it is Chris Olave, 22 catches for 302 yards. Team numbers in the first 3 weeks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers total yardage 290, total yards 212, passing yards 78, rushing yards. These are averages, by the way. For the New Orleans Saints, total yard average 341.7, passing 248.3, rushing 93.3. Yards allowed, starting with Tampa Bay, 380.3, passing yards allowed 277.3, rushing yards allowed 103.0. For the New Orleans Saints, yards allowed 303 yards allowed, passing 203, and rushing yards allowed 99.7. Oddsmaker has the Saints favored by 3 points in this game, and that's a home 3 points. So it's pretty much even. I am going into this game skeptical. I don't know how to pick this game, to be honest with you. On paper, I will say, hey, Saints. But judging by what I saw the past couple of weeks, I don't know. It's definitely, well, and not so much the last couple of weeks. It's just when these two teams meet up. You know, is this going to be one of those physical matchups where we see Alvin Kamara, they try to force the ball to Alvin Kamara because he's back, and, you know, try to make him a focal point of the offense and throw off the chemistry with the receivers that way? Or are we going to have a physical match to whereas not Chris Olave, Marshall Lattimore and Mike Evans get into it again? We get more ejections and suspensions and penalties. And what are we going to get in this game? Or are we going to get Jameis Winston starting this game? Because right now, we still don't know. I don't know who's going to start this game. It should be Jameis Winston, but I don't know. I don't know, because Dennis Allen is still crossing his fingers and his toes that Derek Carr can, I don't know, go to Walmart and get another shoulder before Sunday. So we'll see how this goes. But I will give a prediction. My prediction is the New Orleans Saints will win. I think this will be a tough defensive battle, especially with our O-line is definitely going to be a field day for Tampa's front four. And our defense is going to have a field day with not Derek Carr, but Baker Mayfield. And I look at this Saints coming out victorious 17-10. That's my prediction. I I don't know. I don't know. I, the bottom line is the Saints defense haven't allowed 20 points or more from their opponents in 11 straight games. That's a record. And I don't see Tampa doing that. I don't see Tampa scoring over 20 points. Unfortunately, neither do the Saints. Saints haven't scored over 20 points either. And with these weapons, with this offense, make it make sense. But the Saints will come out victorious. I'm hoping for a game that just announced to the world last week was a fluke, that we turned the corner. There's something I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because I'm tired of seeing the same mediocre play from this team, even when we win. I'm tired of seeing us barely win games and blowing double-digit leads. I'm tired of seeing it. So, here's to the Saints coming out victorious in a defining way. Let's say it that way. And we need this win. This is a big game because, as I said to start the show, the Saints are tied for a three-way tie in the division lead with Tampa and Atlanta at 2-1. So it's crazy to say week 4 we're in a must-win game, but week 4 we're in a must-win game. It is what it is. We got to play our schedule. And so let's do it. Let's go out here, dominate, win this game. Preferably, Marshawn Lattimore doesn't get ejected this week. Hopefully there's no fighting. Hopefully we can have a good, just clean game. We shall see. I would like to know, what are you anticipating from this game? Do you think the Saints will bounce back after last week's disappointing loss? Or do you think that we're going to continue on a little skid here with Jameis Winston coming in at quarterback? Don't have faith in Jameis Winston. I had a bunch of notes about that little narrative, but I chose at the end not to even go there. I chose not to even go there. Let's see what happens, because I don't even know if he's playing or not. So I left it alone. But I want to know, what do you think will happen this Sunday in the Dome when the New Orleans Saints play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Let me know by email, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also look me up on all social media platforms. Just look up the KB Radio Network. You can also look up the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube. Subscribe and like this video. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast here on the KB Radio Network. Everyone, thank you for joining me as we preview Saints versus Bucks this Sunday, week 4 in the Dome, 12 noon. Can't wait to speak to you after the game when we recap the Saints' victory. Until then, I'm going to be screaming, "Who dat?"